There's something no one talks about, but almost everyone feels. A strange discomfort that shows up in the middle of the night or after a productive day. Even when everything seems fine, there's a question that keeps coming back. Why do I still feel so empty? Have you ever caught yourself thinking that and trying to brush it off? Well, you're not the only one. And maybe that feeling carries an important message, one they never really explained. But if you understand it, it might just change the way you live. Curious? Then listen closely. There's a kind of exhaustion that no amount of rest can fix. It's the fatigue of always trying to keep up with a world that never stops, while everything inside feels stuck. Social media never sleeps, expectations never ease up, and the pressure to be someone is suffocating. Your mind never gets to rest, not during the day, not at night. And underneath all the noise, a question lingers. Is this really it? Even when things look fine on the outside, something still feels off. We've never had this much access to information, yet most of us don't know what to do with it. A constant flood of content tells us how to look, think, and live. If you're not productive, you're falling behind. If you're not happy, something's wrong. If you lack purpose, you're lost. This mindset is brutal. It turns people into projects. Life becomes a never-ending emotional to-do list. And the chase for success becomes a mental trap, the kind most people confuse with normal. Have you ever noticed how hard it is just to be when the world demands you prove something all the time? Prove you're okay, prove you're growing, prove you're worth it. Even if no one says it out loud, you can feel it. We're all running a race where no one really knows the finish line, where comparison is constant, but connection is rare, where the fear of failure hits harder than failure itself. And somewhere in all this, emptiness grows in silence. This isn't a glitch in the system, it is the system. A perfectly crafted cycle that keeps you too busy to stop and ask, what am I really doing with my life? That question terrifies people. But maybe, just maybe, it's the start of real clarity. A moment when the noise fades and something deeper finally speaks up. It's not drama, it's awareness. A soul trying to remember what truly matters. And that's when people start looking for something deeper. Not just more success, but meaning. Not just activity, but purpose. That discomfort becomes a compass. The emptiness turns into a question, and at the heart of that question, a deeper journey begins. Most people hear the word existentialism and instantly picture something dry, complicated, or distant. But in reality, it speaks directly to that moment when you wake up in the middle of the night, staring at the ceiling, wondering what the hell you're doing with your life. Existentialism doesn't give you packaged answers. It invites you to look within and take responsibility for creating meaning, even when the world offers none by default. Jean-Paul Sartre, one of existentialism's biggest names, said that human beings are condemned to be free. Sounds strange, right? But think about it. There's no instruction manual for life. You make choices, you deal with consequences. And that radical freedom, it's terrifying. Because if life doesn't come with a script, you're the one writing it. That can feel overwhelming, but it also gives you power. Søren Kierkegaard, who came before Sartre, talked about the anxiety of existence. He didn't see it as a problem, but as a spiritual wake-up call. Anxiety arises when you realize there are infinite possibilities and zero guarantees. You can change your entire life, or you can stay the same. And right in that gap between who you are and who you could be is the real existential tension. It's not about answers. It's about the courage to live inside the question. Albert Camus, another brilliant mind, introduced the idea of the absurd. He said we humans crave meaning, but live in a universe that gives us silence. That conflict? It's the heart of the absurd, but Camus didn't see that as a reason to give up. He called us to rebel, not with violence, but with life, to live, not because life has meaning, but because we're brave enough to create it anyway. So existentialism isn't here to make you comfortable, it's here to wake you up. It asks the questions most people are afraid to face, and yet, in doing so, it offers something rare, the freedom to reinvent everything, to tear up the script, to live a story that's actually yours. But of course, that kind of freedom comes with a cost. What if life really has no meaning? At first, that sounds terrifying, like everything is pointless. But what if the opposite is true? What if it's precisely this lack of meaning that sets you free? Imagine waking up one day and realizing the map you've been following never existed. And now, for the first time, you get to draw your own. Camus said that the only truly serious philosophical question is suicide, Because once you realize life offers no built-in purpose, the big question becomes, should I keep going? But Camus wasn't pushing for despair. He was calling for rebellion, the kind that says, I will live anyway. I'll keep creating. I'll keep choosing. Not because life gives me meaning, but because I can give it to myself. True liberation begins when you stop asking, why does this all matter? And start asking, what can I do with this strange, wild freedom? That shift changes everything. You stop chasing answers that never come. You stop trying to outrun the void. And instead, you sit with it, listen to it. And in that space, something begins to change. Not because someone gave you direction, but because you remembered how to create your own. That's where awareness is born. Not through some mystical enlightenment, but through a raw kind of presence. You stop trying to fit in, stop trying to be who they expect you to be, and suddenly, you breathe differently, you move differently, you choose differently. Because now, you're living from a place that's real, that belongs only to you, that makes no sense on paper, but feels right in your bones. And when that realization hits, that no grand plan is running your life, you begin to hear your own voice again, the one buried under years of noise, fear, and performance. And in that moment, the void changes shape, because maybe, just maybe, the real meaning of life is the one you're brave enough to create. Some days everything looks fine, the job's okay, the bills are paid, friends are around. But when your head hits the pillow, something starts to stir. It's not sadness, not anger, not fear. It's more subtle, like a quiet ache with no name. That's the void, the one nobody sees, the one that doesn't show up in photos or blood tests, but weighs more than anything. That void shows up when you've checked all the boxes, but still don't feel fulfilled. You studied, you worked hard, you built a stable life, and yet, you keep asking, is this all there is? It's like living in a beautiful apartment, with no windows. Everything looks right, but there's no air, no soul. And the more you try to pretend it's fine, the more it suffocates. Most people try to fill the void with external things, shopping, achievements, relationships. But the void doesn't respond to that. In fact, it grows, because it's not a hunger for stuff, it's a hunger for meaning. And meaning doesn't come from the outside. It's built, it's lived, it's felt when who you are matches what you do. And that's exactly where most people lose themselves, in trying to be what others expect. You can ignore that discomfort for a while, especially when life is loud, but eventually, silence wins. And in that silence comes the scariest question of all. Why isn't this enough? That question shatters the illusion that success equals happiness, that recognition cures loneliness, that external fixes can heal internal wounds. And once you see that, it's hard to unsee. But that void, as uncomfortable as it feels, is a signal, a gentle but persistent reminder that something in you is calling out. It's not here to punish. It's here to point you back to yourself. And deep beneath that emptiness, something else begins to stir. The void, when embraced, becomes a mirror. It reflects all the parts you've ignored, old wounds, buried stories, false identities, and at the center of it all is one truth. You've drifted away from yourself. The good news? That distance is reversible. Your soul may have been quiet, but it's never stopped whispering. And when you finally begin to listen, everything shifts. Pain becomes compass, stillness becomes clarity, and the silence becomes sacred. The answer isn't always to do more. Sometimes it's to do differently. Stop running. Stop reacting. Start feeling. Practices like journaling, stillness, mindful walking. They sound simple, but they're revolutionary because they bring you back to now. And now is the only place where healing happens. Not in the past you can't fix, not in the future you can't control, but here, in the presence you've been avoiding. Start small. Write 3 pages each morning, no filter. Try 1 minute of deep silence a day. Let yourself breathe without checking a screen. Say no when something doesn't feel aligned. Each act is a return, a quiet rescue. And slowly, your internal space starts to feel like home again. Not because everything is fixed, but because you've finally come back to yourself. It takes courage to sit with your emptiness, to stop numbing, to stop pretending. But when you do, solitude transforms into self-connection. Silence becomes peace. You no longer fear being alone, because you're no longer abandoned. And this kind of presence doesn't depend on your circumstances. It's a grounded, quiet strength that grows the more you tell yourself the truth. You don't have to fill the void. You have to live inside it. Get curious. Stay still. Let the discomfort speak. And slowly, that space becomes sacred. Let me ask you something. How many times have you ignored how you feel? just to keep functioning. How many times have you filled your days while feeling empty inside? The truth is, the void isn't your enemy. It's trying to show you where to begin again. But no one can walk that path for you. You have to decide. Will you keep running from yourself, or finally have the courage to come back home? If this video sparked something, even just a little, then maybe it's time to stop chasing and start listening. And if you want to keep exploring these ideas, hit subscribe and turn on the notifications. This isn't about magic solutions. It's about real conversations that just might change your life.